Hey, how you doing, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, we did. I mean, the dimensions of the pool stayed the same.
Well, first off, it seems like you've got a little more space here. Am I wrong about that?
The dimensions stayed the same.
Yeah.
It's all aesthetically and visually, and now it looks totally bigger and different. New paint, the windows are all new. You know, the new opened up the ceiling, the HVAC system, the lights, all of that's brand new. So yeah, it's funny how many people come in and say, "Oh, you made the pool bigger." I'm like, no, it's the same size.
Looked as if you had more room here. I think the length was the same.
Yeah.
25 yards.
25. Yep, 25.
So I'm here with my son and daughter.
Oh, there you go.
If people would mind just filling in the seats, and we'll get the program ready to start. Okay, now hold the applause till everybody's up. It's been just wonderful for the last hour and a half, 2 hours, feeling the energy of everything in the room and everybody in the room. And we just want to, and I want to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart for coming here today and participating. But you're not here to hear me. And I'm not going to be speaking much. If you can please rise and join the Corey sisters for our national anthem. And just a little background, the Corey family is from Fall River, and they are in the process of finishing up their first debut album. They're heading out to California in a couple of weeks, and that first album will be hitting the stores soon, and we look forward to them coming back in our digital center, putting on a show. Ladies.
What so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Thank you, ladies. That was wonderful. And now we know why you're recording the album and I'm not. Next, I'd like to have Reverend, don't sit down. I'd like to have Reverend Lawrence offer our invocation.
Boy, there are times when there's only one word to really describe how you feel about what we're experiencing here today. It's the word wow. Holy mackerel. It's when I think back many years ago when I used to eat lunch every day in your little grill in the front here, working with George Delano and building the pool and some of the associations of the past. certainly we do congratulate you all. I'm reminded of a wonderful comment made by John Stuart Mills when he said that if you have a vision in life but no task, all you have is a dream. But if in life you have a task and no vision, all you have is a duty and a job to do. But if you have that vision, coupled with the task to do it and fulfill it, he says, therein lies the hope of the world. Today we experience the hope of a community by people having a vision of what can really transpire when you work at it, and to give the disciplines that have been exercised in carrying forth what it is that we can enjoy here today in the ongoing history of our community. And so our hope, O Lord, is in providing resources for people that can grow in spirit, in mind, and in body. May the cutting of the ribbon today be a profound symbol that there are no barriers in this building, and having the children of all ages seeking activities that unite us as a family. It is our prayer that the objectives of the YMCA can resonate with the citizens of Fall River, that they can feel empowered by its mission in providing a quality of life that benefits us all. Today, O God, we acknowledge the wisdom, the energy, and the motivation of the YMCA leadership, both past and present, that like the mythical phoenix bird, can resurrect from the past a new life, a new challenge, a new vision for the times, and a new facility that stimulates a quality of life. In our journey of life, with our daily uncertainties, with all of its unexplainable mysteries, with all of its questions prompting us to ask, why? Help us. Help us to see that the answer that's available by the why that we find on North Main Street in Fall River. It is right here beyond the cutting of the ribbons, O God, that we find the interrelatedness of life that grants a goodwill. It's within this structure that we find the worth and the dignity among people, and not only being winners in games and competition, but claiming a victory in the use of our minds and imaginations that encourages our growth in the meaning and the purpose of life. The ribbon in our sight, in this case in God, symbolizes the true position, the outer world of conflict, chaos, confusion, to that inner world of acceptance, camaraderie, and character once that ribbon is cut. And so while the top of the letter Y signifies divergent paths based on personal choices, the base of the letter Y signifies our commonality, our unity, and our roots provided by your grace. What each of us are, O God, here today is your gift to us, but what we become by the empowerment of this organization and its services to others, destined by its mission, is our gift to God. Bless the leadership, the staff, and all donors to this worthy project, that in their giving to the least of these my people, they have given to the mission of a religious ideal that they have done justly, loved mercy, and walked humbly in your steps. Our best hope for a better world, O God, is what we experience and share this morning, for it is then that we unite our efforts in working for the greater good. It's then that we see each other as brothers and sisters with a common heritage, and when the integrity and the value of the self becomes the model and not the exception. So may each of you present, for whatever your role has been in making this dream come true, in building a facility and a reality that we have here today, may you hear the words of him who says, well done to all of you, my good and faithful servants. Peace, shalom, and amen.
Thank you, Reverend Lawrence. I would like to quickly thank a couple of people of recognition in the crowd today, and that is Pedro Amaral is here from Senator Roderick's office. I don't know where Pedro is. He's somewhere. He was here. There he is. He's waving in the back. We also have school committee member Bob Menard. There's Bob. He's here. City councilors Paul De Silva and Ray Mitchell, and our newly crowned Miss Fall River. Miss Fall River in the back there. Miss Fall River. Interestingly enough, our platform, believe it or not, is the Y, because it stands for Healthy Living, Social Responsibility, Youth Development. So we look forward to having her in the building over the next year as she moves forward in her crown and entertains the kids here. One of the great things about working at the Y is we occasionally get to meet wonderful people. Wonderful people. And I'd like to introduce one of those individuals now. And this woman is Yvette Mancini. She is our youngest member at 97 years young. And she has a couple of words to say about what's transpired here. Yvette, come on up.
Greetings, Mr. Mayor, and to all the dignitaries that Mr. Duffy introduced. I don't have to repeat the names, but hi to everyone. And looking at this beautiful location now, I can recall being a member here in 1935. At that time, it was a men's Y. But the ladies were allowed to come in one day a week. That was on a Wednesday. And we took advantage of it. I can remember we had a track. We used to run the track on this gym here. We played volleyball, we did basketball, but the best of all was the pool, which at that time, all the bathing suits were made out of wool. You couldn't use wool because it would trap the first filter in the pumps. So we had to make our own bathing suits. And I was here faithfully every Friday until I started raising a family and working. And then I did stay away for a while. And from what I learned in the pool here, I moved to Florida and I became a leader, an exercise leader right there in the pool. But it was nothing like the facilities we have here. I wish you people, and you mankind, and all the ladies, I wish you could go down to our locker room. We've never, I mean, they did do some improvements. I think it was in the 60s that they opened it up to women that could come every day. So they did make cubicles, private cubicles to dress in, private cubicles for showers, which we did not have before. As you can understand, it was a men's Y. But now it compares, there's no comparison with what we have right now. We have so many dressing rooms, so many showers, except that you need a mat to get around until you get this. It's like walking through a maze, but we enjoy every day of it, and there really is nothing like it. I was allowed to talk over only 3 minutes, and I think my 3 minutes are up. So, enjoy the rest of the speakers. Thank you. This is the second time that Frank Duffy has done this to me. My 90th birthday, they gave me a party, and my 95th birthday also. But on my 90th, he presented me with the flowers, and he knelt, just like he did.
Yes, I know, I'm such a ham on that one. But Yvette's wonderful, thank you, and she's right. If you get a chance, please check out the rest of the facility and give a tour. I will now introduce the man who made this possible, the chairperson of our Capital Campaign Steering Committee, President and CEO of Bay Coast, and we did it just right, and he did it just right, and we can't thank him enough, Nick Christ.
Gee, I want to thank everybody for coming this afternoon. I want to thank my committee members as well. But this is a story of perseverance. The Fall River Y might not be here today without the dogged determination of many of whom are here today with us. As we remember, there were many iterations of this project, all of which were well documented in the Fall River Herald. It took a long time and a lot of effort to get here, and we are thrilled with the incredible outcome and the many services that are now available to the Fall River residents. And we hope all of you are too. As of today, the Fall River YMCA has secured or raised $10.8 million, of which $4.5 million has been raised by the community. That's another applause. It's just an incredible achievement, and it isn't possible without everyone's effort. The construction has ended, except for a few punch list items, but our story has just begun. The impact of this revitalization project will carry on for years to come. From the Y state-of-the-art wellness, the after-school enrichment and educational achievement centers, expanded youth development, healthy living and social responsibility programs will allow us to make a difference in the lives of many. Every day our community is getting stronger, and it's due in part to what has been accomplished within these walls. Do we have more to do? Absolutely. The final number needed for our capital campaign is yet to be reached. That number is around 400,000, so if you have anything in your back pocket, but we still need people to step up and support our Y. Together, let's make sure the doors to this brand new facility stay open, because a revitalized YMCA is essential for a revitalized downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick, and thank you for your yeoman's-like leadership throughout this whole project. Obviously, Nick put in an awful lot of time and effort, and none of us would be here without his help today and guidance. I'd like to offer someone else who also served on that steering committee now, and that is Joan Menard.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Before I begin my introduction of the mayor, I do want to talk a little bit about this building. I was listening to the music as I came in today, and Unforgettable, and I think it was Frank Sinatra. And I remembered back to 1952 when I used to dance to Unforgettable by Frank Sinatra in this gym. So this building has amazing memories for me, and I was so happy and proud to be a part of the committee. But my job today is to introduce the mayor, the Honorable Sam Sutter. And for some of you who don't know Sam, he is a brand new mayor. I just have a little tiny bit of a background about him. He graduated from Brown University and the Vanderbilt School of Law. He began his law practice on Cape Cod. It's important for me to mention that he is also, or was also, a nationally ranked tennis player, so it wasn't all studying.
Mayor Sutter worked at the Bristol DA's office for 8 years and finally decided to run for public office. Something happens to people when they're working in the public sector, and some of them decide to run for public office. He was elected to 2 successive 6-year terms. And then in 2014, he decided to run for mayor, and he'll try to explain why he did that. The main reason he did that is Fall River is the community that he really loves. And he wanted to be a mayor who stands up and represents all of the people of Fall River. His wife Dottie, his sons Alex and Cliff, and daughter Ava have called Fall River home for the last 22 years. And I know they've been very happy and active in the community, and we want them to also to be an important part of the YMCA family. Mr. Mayor, we want to publicly thank you for your support for the YMCA and for all of the efforts that have gone into this, and all of the, as you know, there were parking issues and one-way streets and all of that, and we thank you for your help. And please, all of you, help me welcoming the Mayor of Fall River, Samson.
Senator Menard, thank you very much. That was not only a lovely introduction, but kind of daunting. I don't know how I can meet expectations. I was surprised, equally surprised, to hear you speak about dancing here in 1952 as I was to hear you talk about being here in 1935, because both of you look phenomenal. If you had said that you met Ray Mitchell here in 1935, that I would have believed as far as Ray was concerned. Love you, Ray. Where are you? I'm never going to stop giving you a hard time about your age. But in any event, Yvette, beautiful remarks, Joan. Thank you very much. I'd also like to thank Gary Schuyler, the President and CEO of YMCA South Coast, for everything that you have done to make this happen. Nick Christ and all of the members of the Capital Steering Committee, I think that on behalf of Fall River, we can never thank you enough, not just for this, but for everything that you do, Nick, and all the members of the Steering Committee. And to Frank Duffy, who gave me a guided tour. Where are you, Frank? Oh, yes. Geez, the tour was so great, I wish I'd gotten here sooner, but I'll have to stay later or come back, because it was really wonderful. And before I talk about the tour and the why, I must say something about the Coury sisters, our very own. And I'll say this, I'm a huge St. Louis Cardinals baseball fan, so naturally on Sunday night I was watching the first pitch of the Cardinals versus the Cubs, and I'm going to show my age by telling you that I can't remember the name of the artist, some hot, new, celebrated artist who sang America the Beautiful. You guys are a lot better. Extremely bright future. But back to the tour. So I really needed a tour, folks, because what probably most of you do not know is that from, I was doing the dates from 1997 through 2008. So my son was, Cliff, my son Cliff was 7 years old in 1997. He went away to school in 2008. So for those 11 years, I spent a lot of time here at the Y. Mostly basketball, some swimming. It did seem like an ancient building. You did need kind of a road map in order to find whether it was the locker room or the pool, whatever it was. I read about this in the Herald News, but I must confess, until this morning, from around 2008, 2009, I'd never been inside, because my days of playing basketball and swimming with my son, those days were over. So I came in this morning, and I'm embarrassed to tell you that the first thing I said to someone who greeted me at the door was, "So the renovation is just beginning?" And they said, "No, the renovation is completed." And what a magnificent job you all have done. If we could please give them a huge round of applause. I can't wait to get in here and shoot a few hoops with Cliff soon, but I did receive some background notes before I came over here. And I was reminded of the mission of the YMCA. I didn't grow up in Fall River, but where I did grow up, I spent a lot of time at the YMCA there too, playing basketball on the swimming team. Such an essential mission for the kids, educational, spiritual, mental, and of course, physical. But what I remember about the YMCA when I was a kid, which I think is a great part of your mission, is the way it brings together kids from all walks of life. That, when I think about the social mission, is huge. And what made a big impact on me when I was reading the background information was the number of at-risk kids that you are serving on a daily basis. My notes said 960 middle school kids in the leadership program, 2,800 youth and teens. So for a community, as we all know, struggling to do the best we can by our at-risk population, maybe the most stunning and important statistic, for one who loves statistics, that I've heard in my first 100 days as mayor, is that we have about a third of our kids going to school every day in our public schools who are from poor and struggling families. What you do at the YMCA, what Peter McCarthy is doing at the Boys Club, what Grace Gerling and Jameson Souza are doing at Community Development Recreation at the Bank Street Armory are so important for all of us in Fall River who are leaders and want our community to get better and better and better. So to Nick, I say this: what you and Gary and Frank and the steering committee have done for this YMCA does not just revitalize the downtown, it revitalizes our community. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mayor Sutter, and we appreciate the support that the city gave us. This obviously was a project that took about 18 months to do. We kept the building open the whole time, and working with the city, the building inspectors, getting support letters from the mayor. They were there right with the whole time helping us out, so kudos to the city and thank you for that. I'd now like to introduce, you've heard the name, now you get to see the legend himself, President and CEO of YMCA South Coast, Gary Schuyler.
Thank you, Frank. Distinguished guests, Mr. Mayor, Sam, you're always welcome back here at any time. Shoot some hoops here or swim in our revitalized swimming pool. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming to join us at this historic celebration. And my job is to tell you a little bit about how we got here. And at the risk of missing somebody, I'm going to thank some very important folks who made this happen. We've come a long way since the merger of our YMCA South Coast and Fall River Y back in 2005. And at this point, I want to give a little shout out to Bob Oikel, who is our interim executive. Where are you, Bob? Bob Oikel drove down from Maine today to be with us to be part of the celebration. There were definitely times in the last 10 years when I wasn't sure we were going to get to this point of having a revitalized Y. Nick talked a little bit about it, and there were times when we were honestly very close to a wrecking ball. That wrecking ball never came, and for that I'm absolutely thrilled, and I'm sure all of you are as well. I believe, as you look around, that our organization and community has honored the legacy of those leaders back in 1898 who felt that it was important to have a YMCA at this location to be an anchor of a vibrant downtown. And as those Fall River leaders felt it was important to have a strong Y at this location, the present leadership of our YMCA believed that we needed to honor that legacy and persevere and rebuild this landmark YMCA. And I believe we have done that in a grand fashion. We continually hear the words wow when people walk through today, and it's kind of neat for all of us to hear. We had our very first design meeting on May 9th, 2005, 10 years ago next month. And although our final design is quite a bit different than what we talked about that day, Frank's chuckling, and I'm sure Jane is too, we're very pleased with the final result, and there are many folks that made this happen. And I want to start out by thanking our design team that was headed by Jane Gleason, who created this wonderful design. She's over there. Thank you. I also want to thank the team from Ford Construction, who are not strangers to Fall River, building many of the buildings down here. Bank 5 and the Boys and Girls Club come to mind. But Bill and Steve Smith from Ford Construction and the team, Peter, Keith, and Billy, I don't think another firm could have worked the miracles they did while keeping the Y building open to the public during the construction. So thank you so much for being patient with us. Where are you, Bill? So it was a complicated project. Costing more than $11 million, $11.2 million, and many people didn't think it could be done, and some were even doubtful about investing so much money in an old building. We got that feedback early on, but through an interesting source of funding sources, it was done, and certainly, as Nick said, a key component was the $4.5 million in private funds that we needed to raise, and we couldn't have done that without Nick Christ and his leadership of our very capable steering committee. And there was a powerful, powerful group that just went out and got it done. Their names are located on a dedication plaque in the lobby, and they will be forever remembered at this YMCA. In addition, we received more than $5.5 million from New Market and historic tax credits. And I want to thank those people who made that happen, because we would not be here celebrating today without them, just as we would not be here without all the private donations. And that was kind of the behind-the-scenes money that was essential to make this happen. There are over 15 different organizations that have been supportive in some manner, and I'm going to mention just a few. First, a special shout out goes to Roger Herzog and Teresa Jordan of Children's Investment Fund and CDAC for their early faith in Fall River to provide early financing for some of the upfront development costs. Another organization was MHIT, Massachusetts Housing Investment Corporation. Paul Chan, who isn't with us today, but Kathy McGilvery is. And they deserve a special thank you for explaining to us how to make New Market tax credits work and awarding them to this project in Fall River and deciding that this project was worthy enough to get them. And that was well over $3 million that came to the project. And without that, we would not be here. And we also want to thank Mass Development for joining with them in their efforts. I think Kathy is here today. Kathy's over there. Thank you, Kathy. We did receive some historic tax credits, and we had to finance those historic tax credits, and we got financing from Susan Schlesinger and Kristen Howell from the Life Initiative Group, and they financed some of the private pledges as well. And we certainly want to thank the Mass Historic Commission for awarding those credits as well. We had great attorneys working on the project, Murray Lukoff and John Tierney from Halloran, Lukoff and Smith, and also Joe Lieber and Dan Claudno on the tax credit side from Boston. And we had a great consultant working with us on the historic credits, Maureen Kavanaugh, so she helped us steer through the morass. Where's Maureen? Maureen, you here? Maureen Kavanaugh in the back. The morass of getting these historic tax credits. It's not an easy process, but we had really expert help, and brought in about $2 million to the project. Again, we wouldn't be here without it. We needed all these pieces to make it happen. Frank and Joan have already acknowledged the mayor and their support of this project, but I don't think he's here, but I really want to lift up Mike Dion from the mayor's office for his continued support over the many years. So if you could give him our thanks for that. He's been a great help, and the city has been a great help as well. We got through a lot of permitting stuff with great help from the city. There was That was not one of the roadblocks that we had in making this project happen, was working with the city departments. They were great to work with, and so they're to be commended for that. And last but not least, we would not be anywhere without the local consortium of 4 community banks who provided the critical financing at the get-go. Bay Coast, Bristol County Savings Bank, Bank 5, and Mechanics Cooperative Bank. And I especially want to lift up Carl Tabor and Ann O'Jay from Bay Coast, who led that consortium, and our own CFO, Bob Trahan, for managing and helping to navigate that. Fall River is blessed to have such a strong contingent of community banks who have supported this project in every way. They're led by great community-minded leaders like Nick Crisp, Pat Murray, Bill Eccles, Joe Batista, Ross Upton, and Matt Shondek. And I want to thank them for being part of this. We got great community support every step of the way. When we went out and tried to raise money, in the private sector, we went months before we got our first no. It was amazing, and the support that we got out of the gate. I need to thank our entire team at the Y, our corporate board, who have been so supportive, and who agreed to Larry Wilson's passionate plea, which Peter will talk about shortly. I want to thank Frank and the staff for putting up with so much prior to construction and during the difficult construction period. I need to thank our staff from our other branches and our association offices, especially my assistant Deb George for putting up with me. Our development team at the Y started with Jim Mathis, who's now moved on to another job, but also Jim and Rhonda and Susan for steering us to raise the money. And the wonderful Special Events Committee, which is made up of all volunteers, and they've run such wonderful events. We've had such great events here, and they've done a really good job. Give them a round of applause. And finally, my wife Donna, who has also put up with an awful lot during the last 5 years of making this happen. And thank you, Donna. In closing, I'm sure all of you know of some landmark building that was a vibrant part of your community's past, but is no longer there. You have ensured that this landmark building will be here for generations to come and will continue to be an important center for community life for many, many years. We're doing much, much more than renovating a landmark building. Through our education center, we are creating an opportunity for our community to be part of the solution for moving the needle for improving the education of our children. Thank you, Meg and Fran from the school department, for helping us partner with you. And through our healthy living spaces, we are creating opportunities for our community to become healthier, and we're encouraging a positive lifestyle and way of life for all who come through our doors, for the Yvette Mancinis of today and for the Yvette Mancinis of tomorrow. Thank you, Yvette, for sharing with us. We have restored a landmark, but more importantly, we are part of the renewal of our community. At this time, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce a special guest. When we began this project, there were many naysayers who said it couldn't be done. If we were going to persevere, we needed a champion, someone who believed in us. And we did not have to look very far to find our champion in Dr. David Greer, Fall River's own Nobel Peace Prize winner, a longtime Y member who maintained his health, and maybe he might say his sanity, by weekly games of squash here at the Fall River Y. When Dr. Greer graciously agreed to be our honorary chair, our project started to take off. Dr. Greer and his wife were part of our groundbreaking ceremony about a year and a half ago, and Dr. Greer got to take part in our squash court dedication ceremony last fall. At that time, I was talking with him about finding some purpose, and he was looking for some purpose in his life after his beloved wife had passed away earlier last year, and he was interested in helping out in our education center. Unfortunately, he passed away a few short weeks later on November 18th of last year, and if we could have a moment of silence in his memory now, I think that would be appropriate. Thank you. an interesting story. When I first met him at his house, we all have one of these phones with a camera on it, and I was really hoping to get a picture of me with his Nobel Peace Prize. And I thought that'd be cool. I mean, how many of you have a picture with a Nobel Peace Prize? Do you have one, Joan? You do? All right, so we got Joan. There's probably nobody else though. So I wanted to get a picture with me next to the Nobel Peace Prize, and so I'm in the living room, and I said, Dr. Greer, do you have the Nobel Peace Prize? Do you have the prize? And he told us how he got it, and he says, I don't know, it's in a box somewhere. And there were pictures of his family all around, and then he leans over to me and he says, I've got a lot of awards over the years, Gary. They're just in boxes somewhere. And I said to him, but Dr. Greer, lots of folks in Fall River have lots of awards, but nobody's got one quite like you. And he just smiled. He wasn't able to fulfill his idea of helping us out with the Education Center, but he did help us out with the Education Center by giving us that push that we needed to get started. It gives me great pleasure to introduce his daughter, Linda Greer, to say a few words on his behalf.
Hi there. Thanks so much for having me. It's really fun to be back. I, like many of you in the room, spent many a day at the Fall River Y growing up, so it's very fun to see it, and it's a mind blower to see how it's changed. And my dad, of course, spent many years, many decades here. He was a very regular squash player and very busy man, and nonetheless found the time to come several times a week. If he were standing here, I'm sure he would tell you that he thinks that's what kept him alive. He came from a family with a long history of heart attacks. He was by far the longest living male member of his family. His father died in his young 40s, his brother died in his young 50s. Every one of his uncles died of a drop-dead coronary. Boof, that was it. And he walked around with that history until he was 88 years old. And he would, if he were standing here, I'm 100% confident would say it was because of the Fall River Y. And then we went over to Brown. He continued to play squash there, but came back here once in a while. Always very proud about his standings, in the senior standings. And it was upsetting to him when finally he decided that his mind was moving faster than his feet. And so he was falling because he was trying to run too fast to get the ball, and that was the only reason that he stopped, was that sport was just, he thought he would actually injure himself. So he loved doing it, and as a doctor, told people all the time that what they needed to do was find an exercise that they enjoyed. Because if they didn't enjoy exercise, they wouldn't do it. And he would use the Y and squash as the example that was, he was still at it, mostly not as a grind, but because he enjoyed it as much as he did. And as Gary said, it did keep him mentally sane as well. And he had quite a nice social life in the men's dressing room, which I heard all about. And so it was really a big part of him. It was a big part of our family. And I have to say also, my mom, as an early childhood educator, would just love to see the educational things here, and I'm confident that if she also were still alive, you'd have both of them working as volunteers in your tutoring areas. And then they passed the love of the Y to us. My husband and I sent our kids to a YMCA camp actually up in New Hampshire, and Camp Coniston, which we've shared with the Y people here. A very key continuing part of our Greer family tradition with the Y. So all I can say is I'm super happy to see this. It's a very, very impressive achievement. I know how badly the city needs it, and I hope that others will use it as well as my dad did for all those decades here at the Y. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. That was wonderful. If I'm not mistaken, he did get a hit on the ball in the wall at the squash club. He did get one hit on the wall. Well, speaking of senior squash players, I'd like to introduce the president of the board, Peter.
Is this a glorious day or what? There is no place I'd rather be than right here, right now. This has been a long journey for a lot of us, and one of the things today proves is that anything is possible. The Red Sox will be 162-0. You heard it here first. Anything is possible. Frank, listen to this. Frank? So I get to meet the adorable, the one and only Yvette. I said, Yvette, I've heard so much about you. This is great that you're going to speak today. What possibly made you want to come here and speak? And Yvette said, I will do anything Frank asks. Frank, anything is possible. You have never, ever heard those words from a beautiful woman before, ever. So I'm the 8th speaker. The 8th speaker. What more could possibly be said? Plenty. So get comfortable. Actually, this is going to be very quick. Why? Because I'm a lawyer. And Gary just informed me that I'm not getting paid for this gig. Something about pro bono sounds French, and I'm allergic to French. Where's my friend Arthur DeSantis? Where, is Arthur here?
Over here, Peter.
Arthur, okay. So, Arthur is the greatest attorney in Fall River.
Thank you.
It's also his birthday. He's been an invaluable asset to RY. And Arthur, you're probably more familiar with this pro bono thing than I am.
Yes, Peter, I'm not yanked.
So as a birthday present, Arthur, do you want to come up here and make this presentation? You want? No?
Nothing more to be said.
No, pro bono, yeah. Walk the walk. Okay, now we're all busy. We all got things to do and places to be. But this event and this ceremony is a beautiful respite from the day-to-day grind and the rat race. And when you talk about the rat race, I remember those immortal words from Lily Tomlin, a great philosopher, Reverend Lawrence. And Lily Tomlin said, the problem with a rat race is, in the end, even if you win, you're still a rat. So let's enjoy this respite from the rat race for another couple of minutes. Another quote, and this is from Eleanor Roosevelt. Not bad for a Republican, okay? They changed my meds, okay? They changed my meds, okay? Eleanor Roosevelt. Sometimes you must do the things you think you cannot do. And I gotta tell you that I never thought we could do this project. An $11.2 million renovation in downtown Fall River in tough economic times, $4.5 million being privately raised. I tell you, I think it's a miracle, and it's a miracle on Main Street. Now, I don't know about all of you, but for some reason, I've been spending more and more time with doctors. And not because I enjoy their company. Aging apparently takes its toll on both bodies and buildings. The wise doctors, in the form of architects and consultants and engineers and contractors, have been telling the why now for years the very same thing that my doctors have been telling me. Your plumbing is shot. Your core is sagging, weak, and pathetic. All of your internal systems are about to shut down. My doctors are telling me I need a total redo. And that's what we've done to this old historic building, a total redo. The rest of us should be so lucky. There are many people to thank. Many people have already been thanked. And I'm going to be a little bit redundant in some aspects. The Charlton family and their family foundation stepped up with the lead gift. And Mr. Charlton is having some health issues, but we are indebted for them. Nick Chris for chairing the steering committee, all the donors, all the volunteers. I enjoyed meeting one person in particular from Ford Construction, Peter Mathis, who's back there. Peter, raise your hand. Okay. Now, Peter's been on this site for probably a year and a half every single day. And I don't know about you all, but one of my least favorite holidays is Halloween. Every day for Peter on this site has been Halloween. It's like trick or treat. And it's never a treat. It's always a trick. And Peter kept on smiling. Now, this may not be politically correct, but as Gary referenced, I am going to single out one individual. If this project can have a heart and soul, and I think it can, then this project owes its heart and soul to Larry Wilson. Where's Larry? Larry? Larry. Larry was our Casey at the bat. We were down to our last strike. The parent Y had spent over $600,000 in soft costs over a 4 to 5 year period. The parent Y is a charitable nonprofit. $600,000 is a lot of money. So we come up with one more idea to save this Y. And that Y is the Educational Achievement Center on the 4th floor, which is now fully operational on the 4th floor. So that's the idea, but now we have to sell it to the parent board. And so we go to a board meeting and Larry's the board chair. And so Larry makes the pitch. And there are many board members who have a very good background in finance, and many of them ask some very hard questions. Those board members have a fiduciary responsibility to all the branches, not just the Fall River Y branch. So they have to look out for Wareham and Mattapoisett and New Bedford and Dartmouth and Fall River. And so some of the questions were, well, where do you come up with $11 million? Can you raise $4.5 million privately?
in Fall River. What happens if you don't? And then one board member said, you know, I've been coming to these board meetings for 5 years and we've been discussing this project, saving the Fall River Y, and we're out $600,000 and we have nothing to show for it, or very little to show for it. And maybe it's just time to go up to the city of Fall River and say, here are the keys, we tried, we've done everything we could do, and it just didn't work out. And then there was silence, and there was more silence, and it was a bit awkward. And then Larry, as board chair, gets up at that meeting and he says, the people of Fall River deserve the opportunity to save their Y. If Larry hadn't uttered those words, we wouldn't be here today, okay? So, Larry, thank you for your leadership. Gary has a little present for you, and it's important that you realize I'm a Yankee, so it came from Gary. Okay, so it might be nice. It might be nice. Just wrapping up, in saluting Larry, we also salute all the mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, and friends of the great city of Fall River who have stood up for something bigger than themselves by giving us this great building. Thank you all for everything you've done.
Thank you, Peter. That was short and sweet. Could I please just have quickly, anyone who was on the steering committee or the board, just quickly stand up for one moment of recognition, because there's a lot of people who talked about it, who said, thank you so much for what you're doing. I'd now like to bring up another long-time YMCA member. Reverend Meir is right across the street most days, but in here every morning to lead us in a benediction. Reverend Meir.
This party is coming to its close, but the good news is the celebration will continue. The celebration of life itself, maintaining our health, the health of our loved ones, the health of people in our city. The celebration will continue as we continue learning lifelong, not learning for ourselves, but again, for the next generation to come. And let the celebration continue to live life to its fullness. Amen.
Thank you, Don. We are just about to wrap up. I want to thank everybody for coming. Please, if you haven't taken a tour, grab one of the staff out there, go for a tour. There's plenty of food left, go eat something. There's plenty of money left to be raised. Donate something too before you leave. But I'd like us to finish off in a celebratory team. We'd love to invite the lovely Corey sisters up here again to lead us in one last celebration. Ladies.
You guys should know the words to this song, so please, if you do, sing along with us. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you
Wonderful, ladies, that was awesome. If I can get the steering committee members for a quick photo out by the historic stair. Anybody else who would like to have a photo up by the historic stair can do that in a moment. Otherwise, thank you very much. We appreciate your love and support. Enjoy the day. Tour the ride. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
One more, 1, 2. Perfect.
Steering committee, please stay.